Rekha Kurup, good morning. Welcome
morning.
in Mauritius.
Thank you.
We are in a special place, very spiritual place in Mauritius.
Yeah.
I will start with my silly question for l'interview du Vendredi, Friday's interview, as we call it in English. Who is Rekha Kurup?
Who am I? So though you say it's a silly question, I feel it's the most profound question, especially for me in my life. And I think that answer for that question for me changes every day. One would be for me when I think of who am I, as you're asking me that question, I think I'm a spiritual being in this body of a woman, exploring, navigating life, learning every day, every moment, from everything around me, people, things, life, and in that process things get created, things get manifested, there's celebration, there is sadness, there's pains, all these things happen, and I feel like I am learning and moving and navigating and through these whole pathway. So Rekha Kurup is that being who is navigating, making friendships, separating, merging, all of this happening
You
every
just said
day.
you're a spiritual body and a human body.
Yeah,
Which one is?
I'm a spiritual being.
Is the best?
Which is the best?
Which is the best?
I think
Spiritual over human body?
I think the combination is the best. Spiritual being and a human body is the best combination.
So it's everyone.
It's everybody.
If
But
someone have a human body higher than a spiritual body, somebody has a higher spiritual than but a human body, is there always an equation or is there an imbalance?
The world we live in, we live so away from nature and the rhythms of nature that we create an imbalance. But I think just to be in this body of a human being, I feel is such a privilege, is such a blessing that we sometimes don't even take the moment to comprehend. We get so much caught up in the drama of the outside. So that's why I think
What's life?
yes,
There's a
yes,
life
exactly,
in
just like
jeopardy,
that.
maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think for me, the journey of my life has been about this integration of being a spiritual being in this body, like how precious this body is. And many of the time, as we are growing up, we are not taught to really be in this body, to live from this body, to enjoy being in this body. So yeah.
You just we have not been taught.
Yeah.
Who has the responsibility to teach us to live with our spiritual body? Is it a priest? Is it my mother? Is this a book?
I think the responsibility, definitely the first 5 years since we are with our parents, especially mother, and I think there is a responsibility of care, because if you look at any other species of animal, they grow up very fast, and since nature teaches them everything, they are so in tune with nature. But it's only in the human baby that it takes like a long time, 5-6 years, for a baby to really be strong and take care of itself. And that is the first 5 years is when we learn everything, we absorb everything. So it's not, I would say it's not even just the parents' responsibility, it's a responsibility of the community and the society to create a space where a child can grow and learn and have its questions answered, to be loved for, to be cared, to be acknowledged for who they came for. But today what happens most of the time, we are mirroring on the child what we want the child to be instead of what the child is here for.
This is the biggest, you have touched a very big issue in Mauritius. We want our children to be lawyers, you want them to be, we don't want them to be, they
Yeah.
do not want to be religious or spiritual. Maybe Mega is an exception, you want to be a mentor, a coach. Nobody wants it big because
Yeah.
they don't see to see the financial gain from it.
Right. So it's very true, because if I look at my own journey, I had no option growing up. Either I had to be an engineer or a doctor. And I am an engineer.
Doctor in what?
I'm an engineer of computer science. I worked in Silicon Valley for more than 10 years.
Okay.
So that's my background, right? But I did not come for that. And I really never wanted to do that, but I had no option. My dad was like, that's it, you have to be an engineer, because that's what he said, that will give you financial stability.
Yeah.
Right? And it was true. He gave me my 10 years of being in the Silicon Valley, gave me the financial stability, and now I do what I want to do. So I don't know if and the maturity and all those things, experiences that have opened up for me now is very different from when I was that young person trying to navigate, right? But I feel today the world is in a different place, right?
Where is it?
It's in a better place. There's so many opportunities, like you can know everything. I mean, at that time, if you didn't have a library or a book, you relied on what everybody told you. There was no internet, nothing when I was growing up, right? But today there's so much information also, that if a young person feels a certain way, they can explore it and they can go deeper. They can find mentors and teachers around the world, you know, for them to deepen what they want to know. But we are still, I feel, especially the Asian mindset, is still very much stuck on you have to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer.
It's not only Asian, it's Mauritian too. So I would like to point out something. You come from, you're an engineer, you're rational.
Yes.
1 + 1 is not 11.
Right.
You're in Silicon Valley, where
Yes.
spiritual, there's no spiritual in there. And how come that 10 years after you come in the irrational, that you can touch a computer, you can touch a program, you can code, decode, recode.
Right.
But when you come to spirituality, it's you can't touch spiritual. I'm
Right.
spiritual. Mega, who is here holding the camera, is spiritual. You are spiritual. There's a word, but we can't touch it. We cannot touch it. How come you made that move from rational to this type of irrationality?
Right. So one thing that you said, I would correct that. You said that in Silicon Valley, that's for me, Silicon Valley is California, right? That's where all the computers, the first
yeah.
movement began. But that's also the place where the first spiritual movement also began in the US. All of that love and the whole hippie movement, the yoga movement also began in California. So I feel California is also like the spiritual hub. Like how India is, all Eastern philosophy, everything, even psychology in California integrates Eastern philosophy with modern psychology. So the Jungians, everything. So in a way, they both exist together. Yeah. So the opposites are always like that. And I feel everyone is spiritual. Like when you walk into nature, how much ever busy we are, we want those moments when we can go to a forest or we want to go to the ocean. We don't realize why we want that, because we feel I will have some peace, some break, some release from stress. But again, we forget and we go back to our concrete and all those stuff for building. But we are all spiritual beings. Everybody is. We just forget that because we don't have time. Even to experience spirituality, we need to slow down in our life. We need to have moments of rest and slowing down. And
from somebody coming from California, when we say the things from California,
Yes.
from Silicon Valley, we have the impression that you're living 200
Very
miles
fast.
an hour, very
Yes.
fast. You're
I
here,
live
and
that life.
You break fast,
Yes.
and then you tell me to slow down. How did you slow down yourself?
That's very good question. I myself was very much in the
Speed.
the doing of things and achievements and accomplishments. And I think at some point, a lot of things started collapsing for me. My energy level started collapsing. My relationship started collapsing. So that's when, and I think at a point, still I was not getting it, that I need to slow down or there's something else happening. I think for me, the way it happened was my life had to completely crash. Everything that I know collapsed. Like I went into such state of, you can call it like a descent, going down. And so I had the only option I left was, instead of blaming the world and everybody around me for the way my life was, I had to turn around and see that I created this life for myself, and how do I step out of this life?
This phenomenon that we know now, it's a big word now in the psychological world, is burnout. You made your burnout?
Yes.
You burned out?
Yes. Yeah.
And what was the way that you started to come back in your other world, I can say?
Yeah. So I think my first experience of stepping out of burnout and knowing a deeper experience of myself was through the breath. So I had this, I found my spiritual path, I met my guru, and that gave me this whole experience, like, which I have experienced as a child, those moments when I feel I'm connected to everything. And then in the world you forget that, you know, you are getting a degree, engineering, this, that, then you're working, and it's a completely different world. And then when I had this experience back, and I felt this joy that I felt as a child that I had forgotten, and this whole feeling that somehow we are all connected and nobody is responsible for my life. I am responsible, and it's the choices I make that choose my life. And that's where I started having this experience of stepping out of burnout. You know, like breath. I think for me the greatest gift is breath. We forget the breathing. Yeah, we are so caught up. We don't even, the breath, if we had to make every breath to live, we would be dead. Because it is built in and it's happening on its own and unconsciously. But what happens when we consciously become aware of breath? We realize that there is a whole interconnectedness. I mean, the breath I am breathing right now is the same breath that the dinosaurs had ancient. The same air. It has not gone anywhere. The air on the planet is the same. It's just recycled. We have all, so everything is there in the air, everything is there in the land, you know. So there's this whole, like, your breath is right now coming to me, my breath is breathing out going to her, it's coming from the plants, they're purifying. I mean, there's this whole process that is present that we are just not aware of. And the way we are polluting our air, so those pollutions we are inhaling, we don't even realize those things, you know, that we feel like they are doing it, that company is doing it, or this car, you know, but we are part of that process. And what happens when you realize that I am also part of the process of whatever I'm creating, not just in my life, but around the world? How do I pull back? What can I do to change my life? Because that is all I feel I can do. I can only be the change I want to see. I think that was my biggest awakening in my life.
So everybody who is having a burnout, you said it, they said it, I wanted to return to childhood when I was a child. So is it whenever you, from a spiritual aspect, is it that it's the end of a cycle when you're burnout, it's the end of a cycle, you restart, you want to be a child to rewrite your story?
Whether we have to become a child to rewrite the story, you're saying?
No, I also, you told me that when you were burned out, you thought about you were a child,
correct,
all that air, and then each one who has been doing this burnout, tell me the same story, but they wanted to return back to be a child, and
they don't know how to.
It seems to me that spiritually they want to rewrite their story.
Right.
So, but
correct.
Go up and
so you
no more engineer in Silicon Valley, and now somebody else.
So I did not immediately quit Silicon Valley. I was in Silicon Valley. I was still, when I experienced the breathing, I experienced breathing techniques by my teacher. I was working in Silicon Valley. I brought the entire program to my company. From my CEO, everybody did the program. So I was involved in the mayor's office. I was involved in the community, telling people that you can remove your stress. You know, stress is like you have a lot of things to do, but you don't have the energy to do it.
No more energy to do it.
No more energy to do it. But you can increase the energy. You see, time you cannot increase, no, on this planet. 24 hours we have, right? But most of the time, our lack of time and lack of energy is because of our mind. We are so stuck in the mind. Yeah, we are never here. Right? We are thinking about, oh, yesterday was like this, or how my future will be, what will happen, this I have to do. We are not doing, we are in the mind sitting, analyzing, right? But as you start breathing, as you start doing breathing practices, you start doing meditation, your mind starts coming here, where your life is happening. So mind starts becoming more, it's like having a blackboard, right? In a classroom, you keep writing on the blackboard. Every day you're writing on it, you never dusted it off. So then finally you cannot even read what is there, right? So I think meditation and breathing and all practices that even today that I bring into this world, they are like clearing that slate. Clearing that slate, so again the slate becomes empty. So every day when you go to bed, when you go to sleep, how do you clear the blackboard? So that when you wake up, you have a new blackboard, a new canvas to create your life, so, you know. So most people don't know how to do this. right?
If I want to follow you,
Yeah.
I have to every night before I close my eyes, I erase my whiteboard. I have a whiteboard at home.
Correct.
I wipe it, so tomorrow is another day.
So it's not just by wiping the whiteboard, you need to wipe it here,
No,
right?
this is what I mean. In
Correct.
the mind too.
Yes, so you need to learn those practices that help you clear that. Yeah, and you will see that how you have more space. We don't have any space in our mind. We keep it so packed. And then where are we going to put new things? So we are always on an overload. So we also need to learn how to purge or to release stuff that we no longer need. And nobody teaches us, neither at school nor at home are we ever taught how to do this.
What do we need to purge?
Purge things that we don't need anymore. Somebody screamed at you yesterday and said you are stupid. They have moved on in their life. We are sitting with that for days and months and years and messing our life. But they have moved on. They are not thinking about it. So how do you drop that they said that to you? You are stupid. How can you drop it right there? Okay, they said, so what? They can say whatever they want.
Sometimes this type of conversation ends up into a suicide. Today is for suicide,
Yes,
International
yeah.
Suicide Day.
Yes.
Somebody tell me that you're not good, you're not right.
Right.
Since you're a baby, you're like this, and
Yes.
and one day.
Yeah, it hits the peak. So that's
Well,
the
it
thing. No,
hits the peak.
we have never really taught our children growing up. We have never really taught how to release things that we don't need. We have not taught those tools and techniques to people. I did not know that. I carried so much stuff from a child who was so free running around. By the time I became an adult, I was like this. I couldn't do this like how I'm talking to you right now, because when you talk, your parents my dad would say, stand straight. You cannot do all these actions when you're talking. You have to be this way, that way. So by the time, I had to learn that the other way. And I was fortunate, and I feel very blessed that I met those mentors. Universe brought these people to me in the right time of my life, because I have moments in my life where I've thought I will commit suicide. I have had those moments many times in my life, literally dark nights, but it didn't happen, didn't do it. And then those moments opened, suddenly showed up. The longing, maybe the call was something, or whatever, karma, whatever it is, those teachers showed up, and I found that there is other way. So then that has became my work. I was in US, I used to be part of a school program. We used to teach yoga and meditation in schools to young people, lots of young people. And so even that happened, then I realized that being a woman, like me being a woman, is really still not in my narrative. I was still functioning in the world like a guy. Yeah, I could do anything, but then it started affecting my relationship, my marriage, it started affecting. And this whole idea about what does it mean to be a woman in my body, in my sexuality, was a question that I only started even exploring it when I hit the age of 38.
So the famous 40 years
Yes.
turn.
Yes.
I was coming to that. I didn't want to ask for your age. So the burnout, it's 14. Why was it spiritually that at the age of 14, everybody wants to change job, they want to, you have been into spirituality,
Yes.
somebody want to create and open his own
Yeah.
enterprise to be in. Is that spiritual, or we program our spiritual
Yes,
is programmed?
actually,
is programmed to that. 40, you change. You go
Yeah,
up to.
So being in this human body, from my work and my own experience, I've learned that there are many gateways in our life which open up different things in our life, and we are never taught that, right? And especially I feel for women, 30, I think 21, 20, 30, 40, there's actually a 7-year cycle.
7 years, yeah.
Cycle for women, where there is a huge gateway that opens up. And for me, 40 was a huge gateway. It was a huge, because when I was 30 itself, I had decided that by 40, this is not the life I want. I need to know more about myself. Though I had all my spiritual stuff that I spoke to you happened before. It happened when I was 26. But my being a woman had still not opened up for me. And that opened up at 38, when I started doing I wanted to explore by 40 to know more about me, a woman. So I did an MA in women's spirituality, and that was a huge gateway. So 40, I think my best life is
as from 40.
As from 40. The life of the visionaries.
Can that be an advice to a woman?
Yes,
the best
I would.
Part of life is not at 60 as Tino Rossi saying it.
Yeah.
It's 40 now.
40, 60 it gets better, I'm sure. You know, but 40 is really best because, and many women, if you see today, when they hit middle age, they go into depression. It's because what happens is you're so caught up in the conditioning, like you be a mother, you raise your child goes out, but you still continue the same life. You suddenly have this emptiness, void, and you really don't know what to do. You don't realize that now is my time. I can claim my time and live my time. But many women are in the narrative of being the wife and taking care of my husband, and you get caught up in so many stories you carry, and you see, like if you see today, women between 40 to 55, 60 are hitting huge depression. There's a huge depression number increasing.
Why? Because
women are not following their calling.
Is a grown man or a grown girl is working. You
don't have anything else to do. You don't have anybody else to do. Now you have to focus on yourself. And that's when all the time that you have not cared for yourself, that all starts coming to the surface. And you blame yourself, the guilt, the regret, the shame, everything that you have boxed somewhere. Now suddenly it's all emerging. Now how do you deal with that? So for many women, their inner work begins at 40, and you don't have the support, you don't have the people around you. And we have created all these stories and narratives that women don't get along with women. But women get along best with women. But we have fed these stories to women that, oh, women, you know me, they are your enemies. Like women feel like that. Many women.
Because of men?
I don't know because of whom. We can just say it's this patriarchal culture that's been created.
At
it's not just
40,
men.
They have some liberty, some are divorced, some we are say, I'm sorry about the word, some become cougars, 40 is cougars in the world, so they are free. They are free,
Yeah.
they come back on the market, if I can tell it in between
Right,
commas.
right.
This is why women do not like women at this age, because they have the ability to go out in the pubs, to be free.
Correct, at 40.
At 40 to 50 years.
Yeah, but that's even not what I'm talking about, right? That is again what is, you are suddenly become aware of yourself, all the pain you're carrying. Now you feel like you can do anything, but you're not still addressing the pain. So by the time you hit 60, it's going to get worse. Because what happens is women, even those women that you're talking about who are hitting 40, they are not really living their age of 40, they're living their age of 20.
20, yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about. Because the world, today the world that we live in has become that we, as women age, we are not seen as valuable. The world that we live in, it doesn't see women as we age. We are not, even look at Bollywood, you look at Hollywood. The more you age, you don't get really valuable roles also. You always...
Tell me, Big B has got very big roles. Now somebody like Tom Selleck, you have been in California.
That's a guy.
It's a guy. No, but...
A man is very different. When a man ages, his value increases. But when a woman ages, her value does not increase. She always is expected to look young. She cannot age. Her body has to remain in a certain shape. Her breasts have to look a certain way. So we do not allow women to age. And women's wisdom comes from aging. There's a huge gateway that opens up for a woman.
Are we ready to that? This is a very important question to me. Are we ready to face to aging? So someday you're in front of a mirror, you see the first white hair. You say, what's going on now? I'm grey.
Yeah.
Everyone is getting grey.
Yeah.
Now it's fashion to be grey.
Correct.
But are we ready to see that first white hair telling us that?
Well, if we are not ready for the natural process of aging, nature is going to make us ready. Nature is already doing that all over the world because nature ages. With nature, everything that is born, grows, ages, dies, again gets born. Everything that we see here will die and come back again. You know, so that process is part of nature and it's part of us as human beings.
But we are not ready because whenever we die, we don't come back.
Wow, that's what we think, right? Everything energy today, science says everything is energy. Energy is never created
It's
nor
told
destroyed.
or it's not
It just
destroyed.
changes
Yeah.
form. It
Yeah.
just changes from one thing to the other. So we are thinking like that, right? That's the thing that, this body is going to die for everybody. That's the biggest reality, right? We are sitting here talking all this, but we'll all die, right? That's
Yes.
the biggest truth. But we forget that truth.
We're not ready. We're afraid of it.
Doesn't matter. Death doesn't
Don't
care
tell me
whether
you're
we are
not
ready or
afraid
not,
to
right?
die.
Death doesn't care whether we are ready or not. Death will come and it has to come. So how do we be ready for life, right?
For the other life you are telling? Or
Yeah.
the life, but we are living
We are
right
only
here.
ready for life if we are ready for death.
This
The
is,
minute we know that I am going to die any moment, my priority for my life changes big time. Right? So death actually makes you live. So you talk to anybody who has had a cancer, who has a near death experience, their life changes like that. They live every moment. For me, it is like that right now. Because even when in my home, my parents are aging, when I live in India, it's very important for me that I see them every day. If they are going somewhere, I see them, because I don't know if they
They are
if
coming back.
Yeah, or if I am coming
back. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, people, relationships where I am are very, very precious now. Because I am in awe of death. I honor death. Yeah, and I know that everything is going to die. We think this island is going to exist forever. It's also going to go at some point. And we think it's not going to go, right? Or anything, the buildings that we construct, so many civilizations have come and gone, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we forget that. But I think the more we start bringing, like how you're saying, is it time to remember that? Whether we remember or not, right now, just before I came from India, Kerala had flood.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So many people's life got displaced. So
Destroyed
Kerala,
and destroyed, yeah.
displaced and destroyed. And it is also a wake-up call for Kerala, because Kerala, of all of the places in India, is the most progressive, has the most abundance. Everything people have. Like everybody has a home. There's hardly poverty in Kerala.
Yeah.
Right? But people are depressed. They have everything, and you look at people, they are so depressed. They will not be able to smile at you. And if you ask them, how are you? Nobody will be able to say, I'm so happy. They're sitting in big mansions, but not happy. Now what? Now people will appreciate joy. Any small, like this guy comes and gives you one bottle of water. Oh my God, you gave me water, right? So whether we are ready or not, I think nature will come and slap us, and nature is doing that a lot.
Talking about Kerala, I know it's very hard situation there, but what you're saying it's the slap to these people living in mansion to be suddenly water.
To lose everything.
But the start of life.
Yeah.
Life started in water, came
Yes.
back and remembered that you're only a passenger on earth.
Yes.
But whatever money you have
Doesn't matter, you're not going to take it, right? Yeah. Like today is what, 9th, right? Just 2 days later is 11th of September.
Yeah.
I was in the United States when September 11 happened, and it changed New York's culture. The whole of New York changed after 9/11 for years. Now it's kind of gone back to where it was before, but it changed. People suddenly began to care for each other. Otherwise, people will not even look at you on the streets, right? Right where this happened, Wall Street. But now that changed the culture. So sometimes it's very painful, but you wonder what happens if we start paying attention to who we are. Yeah, every day, every moment, care for people around us, and what does that do? So it is, and I think it's everybody's journey. We can't take one formula and say everybody fit into it. It doesn't work like that.
But that's life.
Yeah, that's life.
So there won't be humans, there won't be fish. If just one thing. I was seeing live the second airplane entering the tower. It was live in Mauritius.
Yes.
I was just coming from sleep, and suddenly I see a plane entering the second tower, the second attack. What does it mean spiritually for America at that time? First one, they didn't know. They thought about a small plane that missed enter. But when everybody saw that 747 enter, but now it was something else, terrorist attack.
Yeah.
What was it spiritually for the Americans?
I don't know what was it spiritually for the Americans. I can only speak about what was it for me.
What was it for you?
Right. It was very, very interesting, because that day I was getting my green card. We were at the
Okay,
green
we
card
got
place,
it.
7 a.m. for our health checkup with the doctor's appointment, and that's when we saw it at my house. I turned on the television. First, I thought it was a Hollywood movie that was going on.
Yes, exactly.
And then this immediate thought was of my friends in New York. I have many friends who work in New York, who work in the World Trade
World Trade Center, yeah.
Because there's a lot of IT there, a lot of IT people are there. And so the first thing was this whole grief. That's what I felt. I felt a lot of grief. For days I felt grief, like this whole depressive energy, sadness. Like we all, I think as a nation, became part of this collective sadness. For me, it was not blaming or why it happened. Also, it was also taking this moment to see what made this happen. What made some people so angry and hatred that they were really ready to kill themselves for this. You know, you need to pause and we need to think about it. So for me, it is always like that. When somebody hates me and says something to me on my face, I will not blame them. I will sit and think what actions, conscious or unconscious, made this person so hurt that he has to say this to me. That is always my response. So I have to sit and reflect back. So that was my reflection for that, like what as a nation. And that also changed for me a lot of things where I did research. I began to start getting to know more about the history of America, and you know, so many things. It created a completely different experience for me, that whole event. So
you were India, you came in US, United States, and then you studied the history of America in one single word. What is the history of America?
It's a history of immigrants. It's a land of immigrants. The whole of America is built by immigrants. Yeah, it's a land of immigrants. It's a land of opportunity, for sure. But it also has a land of paradox. It is built on the pain and separateness, a pain and what should I say? Pain of many people who already were on the land. So Columbus really did not discover America. America already existed, right? Which was full of millions of people who lived on that land. Now we know that there are so many tribes, 800,000, 2,000 tribes of people with different languages. They existed and who were kind of wiped out. So there's a lot of paradox in America. I think America is paradox. That's what I would say.
And Mauritius?
Mauritius.
It's an island of immigrants.
It's an
France,
island of
English,
immigrants.
from
Yes.
your country too.
Yes.
India, Madagascar, Mozambique,
Yes,
China. Then.
Correct. But America, Mauritius, I still don't know if you had people already living when the first
No,
colony.
there's
You
no.
did
There
There
was
nothing.
only the door, the Kestrel, the
There was, yeah. So there wasn't. So this is again a place built by immigrants. And for me, what is more very powerful about Mauritius is that a lot of people came from my country, from where I come. You know, 6, 7, 8 generations ago, they came here as maybe indentured labor or by their own will. I don't know. So there was like, again, there's a lot of pain here. There's a lot of pain, and for me, it feels like I'm in a mini India, but it's an India which feels like to me is not moved on.
The state, why that? Because we are more in the spiritual world. We talk a lot of religion in Mauritius.
There's a lot of religion in Mauritius. I don't know if there is a lot of spirituality in Mauritius.
Yes, yeah. Whatever is linked
I
to
see a lot of temples,
yeah.
and I see lots of temples, and it's good because I'm sure that is what allowed people to survive and be where they are today, in spite of all that they must have seen in their life. You need something to hold on to. So I think the temples and the structures is what took people this far, that they are here, they have survived all that happened to them, you know, and they've created this beautiful place for themselves. So I feel like, but it's also time, I feel like, for them to also look back at, that's what I would say for the younger people or the newer generation, to look back in their ancestry and release trauma, because trauma and experience and pain doesn't go anywhere. Whether if I don't process it, it just gets passed on to the next generation. It's in our DNA, so it just keeps getting passed down, and then it comes to someone who feels it so much that they have to do something. So sometimes it will result in suicide, it will result in depressions in generations, and you know, and then but the work has to be done. So yeah, so this
what you will be doing a convention here in Mauritius?
Yes.
What you're doing? The purpose of your trip to
So the
Mauritius?
purpose of my visit is, so I do a lot of work with women and men around body, sexuality and spirituality. So integration of all these two. Usually when we speak about spirituality, you're not talking about body and sexuality, right? So my whole work is about this integration of sexuality. So when I'm saying sexuality, I'm not even meaning sex. I'm meaning being in this body of a man or a woman. What does that, just that aspect of living that. So that integration, so that's the core of our work. So this conference is specifically for women. It's called as the Awakening the Shakti Woman Conference. So it's about women coming together in a space and really usually see, even women, when we meet at conferences, we are again meeting from this place of identity. You know, I am this and I've done this and I will teach you this. Yeah, I will, you know. But so for this conference is very special in the sense it's not about that. Anybody who's coming to the conference can host something and do a breakout. Everybody has the option of doing that. So one thing is we are leveling the field. Like we are all here together. We can all be different. And yet how do we navigate this journey together? And this particular conference is very much about women's wisdom. So women's spirituality, women's wisdom that comes from our body, that comes from our rhythms, that comes from our entrainment with the moon, that's coming from our ability to menstruate, to bleed, to birth, right? So that wisdom, when we as women come together and when we can let go of all the masks we wear, and can we come together to really seeing each other and holding space for each other, what happens? How do we embody another expression of power, like Shakti? It's about Shakti and woman. So what is really Shakti? Is this a power that I am better than you, or is there a power that when we come together, it automatically starts getting felt? You can feel it. And instead of wanting to top it, what happens if we just be with it and let each other's power shine?
So everyone who is coming, either an MD, doctor, CEO, board member, a lady cleaning in a
It
hospital.
Could be anybody, yes.
Anybody, they will be at the same level.
Yes.
Will it be easy? Because we know that
it's not about level. We are not coming there for a ride. We are coming there as women. When we say we are women, the playing field is changed, right? I'm not coming there as a woman CEO. I'm coming there as a woman.
Are they ready for that?
Huh? Only those who are ready. Those who are ready only will come, no? Who will show up at the conference. Those who seek will only show up at the conference, right? Doesn't mean everybody has to be ready. Everybody has their journey to make. Those who are ready will show up. Those who are not ready, whenever they're ready, they will show up. So it really doesn't matter.
How many days?
It's a 3-day conference. So we meet on Thursday and we end on Sunday.
And what will be the subject? This spirituality, sexuality, wisdom.
So the theme is remembering the rhythm.
So because we forgot about the rhythm?
Yes, women especially, we have a very specific, very different rhythm in our bodies, which is very much similar to the nature, which is very similar to the cycles of the moon. And we don't know that because we are all trained in the very masculine educational model where our bodies really have not much meaning. We cannot even say I bleed in a school. You see women anywhere, you will never know who is menstruating, right? We all have to be like men in the world. So this conference is, you take that, you tell women that there is also another wisdom that is available to you, which is very much part of who you are. It deepens your experience of being a woman, deepens your experience of being in relationship, being present to your own life. So that's rhythm. What is that rhythm is what we are going to explore through movement, through art. So through a lot of different, guided visualization, meditation, yoga. So we have a lot of different maps that we are bringing in for women to really explore the rhythm.
If a woman wants to change from A to go to B by attending your conference, your 3-day conference, what might be her objective? What the changes that she can do right away?
what she can do right away to come to the conference?
Yes, she follows you in 3 days, and then what can her
Change for her.
change for her in a few days?
So what can change for her is she will be able to live, I feel, a more authentic life, true to herself. She will be able to see create very strong boundaries for herself, the ability to say no. You know, with
this
women,
is a big question, the ability to say no. Even for a man.
Yes, even for men. I agree.
We are not taught, even at home, to say no. Father, yes, mother, yes, and we go. It's only, we are not adapted to to experience a defeat.
Right. Yes, definitely. So that narrative itself is very much will change, because defeat is like death. It's very much part of the cycle, no? So I think living life from a different map, not because many times we get caught up in everyone else around is responsible for my life or my inability to live my life. But when you change that map, that it doesn't matter. You give people the permission to have as many judgments as they want. You choose how you want to live, and you choose how you want to communicate that to them. That's the skill that we are all learning to, we are all mastering, the skill to live, the skill to communicate, the skill to express. So even when somebody finishes the conference, it's not like you have mastered and I'm just going to go and live this. No,
you change the world.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey every day of remembering and coming back to the rhythm and living your life. When you falter, knowing that it's okay, it's part of the process, and seeing how you can stand back tall,
Is it easy to change my world or to change the world?
I would answer that the only way you can change the world is by changing yourself.
It's changing my world then.
Yes, your world you can change. Who knows?
Is it important to change oneself?
I don't.
To change yourself.
For me, it's not even about changing myself. It is like we live with blinkers on. What happens? We are just taking the blinkers off. Or it's living with a veil, right? Like it's like you see a rope, but you think at night you see the rope and you think it's a snake, and you're afraid.
Yeah.
You're so afraid, like you can have a heart attack, you can even kill yourself. That snake is going to kill me. In the morning, the light falls on the rope and you think it was not a snake, it was a rope, right? So all our work is about putting that light on the snake and seeing that it was not a snake in the first place, it was just a rope. So that's the work we really do. We really help you see things and in your own way, and wake up and realize, like, oh my God, it is not what I thought it is, right? And then from there, now you know that it's a rope. What are you going to do now?
This time it might be a snake.
It could be a snake. Then still what you will do, right? Instead of being afraid, instead of freezing, how would you respond to the snake, right? So that's the thing. How do you respond to something? That we really don't teach people. And response usually comes when there is pause, there is space in the mind to think. Otherwise, we are just going back to our old patterns and old impressions, and we are stuck in a cycle, right? But when there is a pause in the mind, you see there is a snake, you see, oh God, this could be dangerous to me. What can I do now? What do I have? So otherwise we don't know snake. We don't even know what the snake is as afraid of you as you are of the snake, right? It doesn't even know, it's just there.
Last question, Rekha. We've talked about spirituality, we've talked about human body, but the third part, you didn't talk about soul. Is there soul in someone? In anybody? Human body? In a tree? Is there soul?
I know in my experience there is. Yeah, in my experience I do know that everything, like I feel everything is energy. For me, soul is energy. Yeah. Everything, whether this tree which is sitting here right now listening to me speak, and holding space, and the sun which came and went and is giving me shade in different, instead of shining the whole time, I feel everything is interconnected. And in my life I feel that nature, life, everything responds to me. I know how I am living my life, but by seeing how the world is mirroring it back to me. When things are not getting mirrored back to me, then I have to pause and I have to see, what's happening? What's gone wrong here? Because I feel my inner world is what creates my outer world. So there is soul. Everything has soul. This plant has, this grass has, this land has. Even this bench has energy. It's made of energy, so everything is.
We've talked about life, we talk about death, and in the Asian philosophy that you come back, you would like to come back into a reincarnation. You would like to be reincarnated.
I would definitely like to come back on planet Earth. Definitely like to come back on planet Earth in the body of a woman.
Another woman to change your life.
I don't know. I have loved being in this body and enjoying and navigating this body, and I would love to come back.
Rekha, thank you very much. Have a nice day in Mauritius. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.